All right, welcome everyone to the Thursday, August 17th of the Urban Forestry Committee meeting. It is 4:33 currently, and we are starting our meeting. And pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be held remotely. We'll start with introductions of our committee, and then we'll open it up to introduce members of the audience. And at that time, we will invite folks to, if you are interested and willing, to become panelists, and you can unmute yourself and share your video camera if you're comfortable with that. So we can start off with introducing the committee, and we'll go alphabetical by first name. So Amy Myrtle.
Hi, I'm Amy. I am a member of the committee. I have a background in insect community ecology and also a lot of background noise at the moment from my children. But I'm interested in insects and how they interact with natural space and also the role of trees in human health as well. Thank you.
I guess that's me. Hi, everybody. My name is Breck Miller. I'm the city tree warden. I handle most of the tree maintenance side of things.
Hi, everyone. My name is Calla Taylor. I am a student, so I'm a youth member of the Urban Forestry Committee.
Hello, I'm Chris Dwan. I'm a local activist and member of the committee. My background noise is coming from hedge trimming by my neighbors, so I'll be on mute a lot. I'm really excited to participate in the discussion today.
Hello, my name is Doris Jenkins. I am a member of the committee. My background is in environmental engineering and forestry, and I specialize in green infrastructure.
My name is Leah Grossman. I'm a co-chair of the committee, and I'm a landscape architect working in Boston. I'm a resident of Somerville and very excited to get residents excited about our urban forest and plant more native trees and understory.
I am Vanessa Bukili. I am Senior Urban Forestry and Landscape Planner for the city, and I'm in charge of lots of parts of urban forestry, primarily planting new trees.
We can go to Tori.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tori Antonino. I am a co-chair of the Urban Forestry Committee, and I like to think of the world through a bugs perspective. That's sort of a recent thing, and really hoping that we can use our public and private spaces to replenish our insect population.
And Malik, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Malik Drayton. I am the Urban Forestry and Landscape Planner, and interests include tree protection, tree preservation.
Great, thank you. And now we'll turn it to or do we have any other housekeeping before attendee introductions?
I do have some housekeeping, but we can do it before or after introductions, your call.
All right, let's go welcome our attendees to introduce themselves, or before that, do we have someone taking notes today?
Breck, I think.
Yeah, I'm on the notes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Yeah, so we'll turn to attendees and we can go down in alphabetical order. So we can start with Anne.
I'm going to promote them all to panelists.
Oh,
and then, I can't, if you're on your phone, I can't promote you to panelists. So Ava, I can't promote you to a panelist. So if you'd like to speak at any point, just raise your hand and I can unmute you. But others are welcome to introduce themselves.
And you can go ahead if you're ready.
Yes, thank you. Two things. I went to the FEMA presentation on heat islands yesterday. I don't know if anyone else did. It was an hour and a half, and I found it very helpful in the sense that they recognize that a networking at their level, at the, let's say, federal and state level, putting together plans from disparate functions is really important if they're going to make headway with a pretty catastrophic problem. And so I was kind of reassured about that. The other thing is that something has happened to the birds at Cobble Hill, where I live. And those of you who don't know, it's about 10 acres of parkland with 4 buildings in it. And historically, we have about 10 bird species. It is Rachel Carson's Silent Spring at the moment. And that is not the hiatus that happens in the summer, which is when birds have their fledglings out learning and doing things and there's less conversation. This is something else. And I don't know where to report it.
But is that, I'm just curious, like why, is that something people have been observing that, or is there some sort of
I
regular
haven't
bird
heard,
count or?
excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering how, like why, more details on what you think is happening or why.
I'd say I don't know any other birders at Cobble Hill, and I consider myself a completely novice birder, but I'm very aware of, in the over 14 years I've lived here, I'm very aware of the birds and their presence. And we don't even have sparrows at the moment. There's something I don't want to take up your time with all the details of how I know it or why I'm concerned. It's just that I don't know where to report the stunning absence of birds in the park.
I don't think I know immediately either, but I have a friend who studies urban birds, so I could ask him if he has a suggestion, unless someone else in the committee already knows.
Yeah, I don't know where to report this either, but I have observed a similar thing in my neighborhood over near the Academy of Arts and Sciences near Beacon Street. I had been attributing it to a neighborhood cat that one of my neighbors lets roam free. But we used to have cardinals and jays and chickadees and finches and sparrows and the whole collection. And I have really been noticing the lack the past, say, month or so.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even have sparrows right now. There might be a cat, but they couldn't do. I've seen one hawk, and I saw a crow today, but very briefly, and they didn't stick around. They left the park.
I'm happy to ask my friend if he has a suggestion on reporting. That's everything I personally could think to do.
Thank you.
I think another option could be reaching out to the Mass Audubon Boston Nature Center based out of near the Franklin Park area. They would certainly know where to direct you to a team of experts, I think.
Okay.
But thanks for sharing that.
Okay, thanks. I'll try that. Where was it, the Mass Audubon? It was at.
I think their headquarters. I believe they have a headquarters in near Franklin Park.
Franklin Park. Okay.
And I know there's also a center in Cambridge near Magazine Beach.
Oh. Okay. I'll look for it.
I know they lead walks from both of those locations
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Thank you.
I don't know if this is related, but it's something that we're going to need to sort of figure out with the GLX, and that is, you know, their spraying techniques currently, their herbicide use. Again, I can't tell if it's related. You know, the Cobble Hill is not exactly on the green line, but still not far away. But they have been spraying, and I'm just, again, I don't know if it's related, but it's like something that we'll be looking into, hopefully getting some answers soon on their practices when they're doing it, how much, etc. So thanks, Anne.
This is just last note on this and kind of unrelated, but I've recently heard 2 talks on birds interfacing with architecture in the built environment, both around lighting and glass. And there's a lot of new developments that are being implemented, not law yet, but to create sort of bird-proof glass in new buildings and to minimize uplight of outdoor lighting to increase our dark skies. So those are optimistic things that are happening on a broader, slower scale, but things that could also be impacting the current bird populations.
Our park has covered lights so that we don't add to the light in the sky.
That's great. That's really good to hear.
Very nice. And I don't know of any birds hitting windows at Cobble Hill.
That's also good to hear.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
ruling out a few things, but we'll keep our ears out. Great. Let's go to the next attendee. I think we have Ava, if you'd like to unmute yourself and introduce yourself, or not, totally voluntary.
Okay,
Ava,
hi,
there you are.
Hmm?
There you are.
Oh yeah. I'm not on a phone, I'm on a computer, so I don't know why nothing's working. But I'm Ava. I'm a sophomore at Somerville High, and I'm also an intern for the Mayor's Summer Program, the Climate Justice. So I work with Tori, who like kindly invited me to come and check this committee out. So I'm just interested in hearing everything that's going on and try and see if I have any opinions on it.
Great, welcome. And Pamela? If you have any questions or comments, you're welcome to include them in the chat if you're having a hard time unmuting. And if you are able to unmute later, feel free to chime in and introduce yourself. Otherwise, we'll open it up to any other resident concerns at this time.
I have one if nobody else wants to jump in.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a quick update, many will recall that Beacon Street and the removal of the trees there was what activated me as an activist and got me involved in city tree stuff. It appears that the city has decided, as part of that, we filed a lawsuit against the contractor who removed those trees. And I got word yesterday that the city has decided to not pursue that lawsuit. I think that our odds of actually winning are pretty low. So that's news, and that brings closure to about a 5-year journey of the thing that started me down this road. So I just thought I would share that here.
Chris, do you have a sense why?
Oh,
so
yeah,
there was a lawsuit open and now it's closed?
Yeah, so that we explored like there was a lot of conversation back in 2019, 2018. And one of the things that the residents pushed for, there was actually a petition and before the city council, was to seek punitive damages against the contractors because we felt like our we had been violated and wronged. And in conversation with the city solicitor and with the mayor's chief of staff, they, looking at the way things went down, they think it is not, that we are not likely to get anything out of the lawsuit. They think it's not a good use of the city staff's time. And so they took a decision, first quietly and now more publicly, to let the lawsuit go.
I'm sorry, Chris.
We, as I said in a couple of different forums, we have gotten a huge amount of good out of that energy. This committee is one of the things that might have happened anyway, who knows, but it certainly happened faster because we had all those people pushing to do something. And there are a large number of things like that and all the various successes we've had with this committee. So it is not entirely negative. It's just one last thread being wrapped up that is no longer hanging open. And thank you.
I'll add another resident concern if there aren't any others. I sent around a few photos, and Tori mentioned earlier spraying along the Green Line corridor. Yeah, I saw that they put up herbicide little flags saying that this area had been sprayed. And I have not reached out to anyone to further pursue it because out of time and availability, but it is on my list to sort of figure out who to ask, and to figure out sort of whose jurisdiction that falls under and at what time the city takes over. And sorry, along the Green Line path, not the train track right of way, but the path itself.
And is that on the agenda for today, the Green Line? Is that?
Let's see, scroll down
At
here.
the bottom as our
Okay,
standard
all right, we can get,
folder.
yep,
Yeah,
perfect.
so yeah, we
Perfect.
can keep chatting about it then. All right, are there any other resident concerns? And shift to housekeeping items from.
Sure. So I put the code of conduct on the agenda. Some of you have seen it more recently, but others of you, it may be a little bit, you might not remember, but I just put a link in the chat to the code of conduct that the administration created. I think I sent it out originally many months ago. And I just realized or remembered that the administration is interested in having committees actually adopt it formally as a committee. So I know most of us have all signed it individually, but I was wondering if now or next meeting, if we want some more time to remember what this is, if we could go and actually like vote to, abide by this code of conduct or some such verbiage. Just for those of you who haven't seen it before, who aren't on the committee, it's basically like how we treat people in this committee sort of document, making sure that we are being inclusive and accepting and letting people have time to speak and acting well as good humans. That's my summary. Do we feel like we would be ready as a committee to take a vote on this now, or should we push it to next meeting?
Is it more of a formal, it's basically just publicly holding ourselves accountable versus individually signing it?
Yeah. Like going forth, this committee signs on to abiding by this code of conduct.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will say that I continue to wonder what problem we're solving here. Like, as you mentioned, Vanessa, we all signed this and asked the same question at the training session and didn't get any particular answer. It was just like, oh, this is something we want to do. I've read it in some detail. I don't disagree with any of it. Except I worry about including language about like private tribunals. Like I don't like that as a part. I feel like if the mayor felt that any of us was acting inappropriately, she could just remove us, you know. But I continue to wonder what problem we're solving. I have no problem. I won't vote against it. I just wonder why.
We cannot answer that. Just so
Yeah.
that was the intent, I think, of creating this at the administrative level. But if we want, I can try to get more information before we vote on it. Not really sure either.
I'm not sure. My personal opinion is it's probably not worth a bunch of our time talking about it or learning about it or having, you know, somebody come in and present about it to us. I'm sort of saying in this space that sure, but why?
Yeah.
I mean, I see this document as a sort of preemptive document, right? To sort of like, in just to have an understanding of how we treat each other, the language we use. You know, it mentions like sort of the roles chairs have, which I found pretty interesting about, you know, making sure people's voices are heard. Yeah, if people want to like take a look at it for, I don't know, this is your meeting, Leia, trying to look at the tribunals and figure out, I mean, I'm fine with passing this as a committee if that is not only the will of the committee, but is this something that Tatiana is asking each committee to pass? Is that your understanding, Vanessa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through her staff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Does anyone feel like they haven't had enough time to sort of read and understand it? Because then it'd be easy to just push it to next meeting. Or if we feel like we're mostly okay with it, we would make a motion to incorporate it into our standard and code of conduct, for lack of a opportunity to more deeply unpack it at a philosophical level.
I'm going to make
Which I'd also be
motion.
fascinated in doing, but
Yeah, I'm making a motion that we sign on to this and pass it and have it under our belt. And I'm making that motion. I need a second, and then we can open it up for
I'll
discussion.
second.
Okay. Discussion.
any discussion? All right. For
Okay.
lack of any discussion, we will do a roll call to make it officially into our things. Let me get to the right thing. All right, so I'll run down our list. Amy Myrtle,
Yes, I approve.
Breck Miller,
Approve.
Calla Taylor,
Approve.
Chris Dwan,
Approve.
Doris Jenkins,
Approve.
Leah Grossman, myself approves. Vanessa Bukwili.
Approve.
Does Malik have voting?
Nope,
No.
I'm redundant.
And Tori Antonino.
Approve.
Not that we don't value your opinion, Malik. All right, great. So at 4:58, I don't know if time is important, but we have voted to adopt the code of conduct for board, commission, and committee members into the Urban Forestry Committee. Congratulations. we can now move on to our next item, which is updates from the city, if there are no other housekeeping items. All right, so city tree removals.
Yep, so I owe you guys a list. I've got about 25 more removals coming up probably next week or the week after. They're mostly dead or nearly dead trees. Hopefully you also all got the notification for the tree hearing that we've got coming up on the 31st, which is basically a weed tree. It's a Siberian elm that's kind of growing out of the fence of an Eversource substation that they're going to be, I'm not sure exactly what they're doing, but we'll find out at the hearing, but it technically is within the city right of way. So that'll be the 31st at 12 o'clock.
Great. And now we'll go to private tree removals and exemptions, and I can pull this up and go to the bottom. Leah,
All
can
right.
just correct me if I'm doing any of this wrong.
Yeah, so I could just jump in here with what's changed. I've updated the sheet, which was woefully incomplete and out of date over the last few months. Apologies for that. So I've updated it with a lot of details, and there's very few permits of the year that haven't been issued yet. So it's 97 Wallace that hasn't, because their application was woefully incomplete and they just haven't gotten back to me on a lot of the details. They're not even responding. 99 Hudson
Oh yeah,
proposed
there we go.
removal of an 18-inch pine tree. I told them that the proof of their dying pine tree was insufficient, and to actually get back to me with an arborist report. Otherwise, they would have to pay mitigation. And I just delivered a check for $19,800 from 12 Foskett Street for the removal of a 33-inch pine tree by the end of a driveway. So that's probably our biggest win for the year. So I'm going to grant that permit within the next few minutes because I just got the check in hand. So that's a little win, a much needed win.
On the Foskett property, is that just a homeowner? Not a homeowner. Is that a new development going in?
I think it's small.
I'm just like, oh, 33 caliber pine tree. Those sting when that happens, Glad we got compensation.
Yeah, we could do a lot of good with that. A lot of trees in more appropriate spaces than in one backyard of someone who doesn't want it.
All right.
So,
Are there any other trees of note?
none of note.
All right. Go back to Somerville Pollinator Action Plan Advisory Committee updates. Yes.
Leah, I just had a question for Breck. So I just can't find, I'm not sure how far back in my emails I need to go. Breck, did you say you had shared a list with us?
No, I haven't sent it yet. I'll send it tomorrow.
Okay. And these are trees that have received their tree hearings?
These are trees that are being removed because they're hazardous, so they don't require a tree hearing.
Okay. So do we have to like post those anywhere? Or
I post the trees. I post notification on the trees themselves. I'll put up an orange poster so that anybody walking by can see, and they can. It's got the trees at Somerville MA email address so they can send any questions our way.
Okay. Are there any like along a certain street that I should give a heads up to? Like if is someone gonna basically like wake up and see their tree canopy? Is there a single street that is gonna be greatly impacted by this, do you think?
Not that comes to mind, and honestly, any impact will be positive. These are all pretty sad looking trees, honestly.
Okay, okay, thank you, thanks.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Tori. I guess Amy or Vanessa, do we have any updates on the SPAP committee?
Not sure if we had our final, I think we had our final meeting with the advisory committee since our last UFC meeting. I'll give a short update on that. We met at the Growing Center and got to see each other in person, which was great. Talk about sort of the final steps, get final feedback, think about the move forward, but mostly it was a meet and greet and see a cool pollinator space in real life. And since then, Allison's been working hard to incorporate all of the final comments from the advisory committee into the scope of work. It is advertised. I believe the RFP is going out officially next week. It's like it has to go through a pre-advertising system. And it will be out for 3 weeks. So we should have some applications, if I'm not mistaken, by about the time we meet next month. So there's, a like proposal part of the RFP process, and then staff will review the proposals with certain criteria in mind, and there will be an interview process. I believe the advisory committee will be part of that as well. And then we'll actually get started on the work. Any questions? Oh, go ahead.
Did we also talk about replacing me on that committee now?
Oh, yeah, right.
Because I told some of you, but not everyone, but I'll be dropping off the UFC after September. So I won't be able to be the official representative for UFC on that committee anymore. So either this month or next month, we'd have to vote for a new member of that committee. So just to mention that, I don't know if we're ready to vote today or just to let people know about that so that then we could vote next month. Sorry for the noise.
Yeah, since do we have everyone actually?
Everyone except Dorothy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, would we feel comfortable nominating someone today and voting on it? I see a thumbs up. I mean, I think I would like to nominate Tori as a wonderful, passionate, you prefaced with you prefer to think from the insect's perspective. So I think you would be a wonderful member for that group and would represent our interests very well.
I would be so honored. And Amy has served us well.
Does anyone else have interest in being that member or want to nominate someone? All right. Without hearing any opposition, I nominate Tori.
Second.
Do we?
Yeah, I'll do that. I was going to second, but I'll third.
Sorry, you should get second.
And is this a voting item as well? Or just we feel good about this, let's do it?
Let's vote to make sure. I'm not sure.
Doesn't hurt to put a vote on record. All right, roll call. Amy Myrtle.
Yes.
Rick.
Approve.
Kala.
Approve.
Chris.
On the condition that she wears the butterfly wings, approve.
Doris?
Approve.
Leah, myself, approves. Vanessa?
Approve.
And Tori, do you approve
Yes,
yourself?
condition accepted and
Awesome. Thank you so much for offering yet more of your time, but hopefully time that will be very well spent, and look forward to hearing more updates.
thank you, everybody.
All right, so no more updates on that. Do you want to move to the Milwaukee Forest update?
Sure.
And
Um,
I believe
so
I have things open.
okay, I'll pull it up. Yeah, I sent out a memo that Allison put together. We've been working hard behind the scenes, mostly her leading the charge. But just to bring everyone up to speed, we're planning to put a Milwaukee forest in a small space behind the high school right off of Medford Street. This is a really dense planting with sort of jump-starting succession to get a mature forest faster than if we let it do things the natural way. It involves a lot of planting, a day of planting with like 40 people, so we're looking for lots of volunteers. About 500 plants are going to be going into this 1,400-ish square foot space, so quite small, will be very dense. It's going to be really cool. There's Milwaukee forests generally have a lot of diversity, like forget if it's 30 to 50 species in it, and it's you're planting all at the same time different layers of the canopy, so like a canopy layer, sub-canopy, another shorter layer, and then understory, forgetting what the fourth one is, but you get the idea. So 4 layers. We had a big species list. This site is pretty dry and maybe get some, it's like the front corner of that, right off down, right about where your cursor is, that sort of open circle area. Yeah, that's furthest away from the building. Wait for you, but you're right in the middle of it.
Great.
So the sort of basis of the forest type that we decided on was an oak hickory forest. It's a natural forest for this area that has similar environmental conditions to the current site. It has a really diverse canopy, a diverse understory. It'll be like a closed forest. So that was our basis for a bunch of species. And then we put in some other ones that we thought would work well in the site as well with the environmental conditions and add to the diversity and be beneficial for pollinators. And we had to cut out some species that more commonly exist in those spaces just because of availability and diseases and climate change. So like hemlock and ash we don't plant because of pests. Cedar we don't plant, or we didn't want to plant in this site because of cedar apple rust, and we wanted to put in service berries. Beech is having beech leaf disease. We just didn't want to have something in there with that challenge. And then sassafras we thought about, but it can be very widespread spreading and might sort of take over from the rest of the diversity. So that's the summary. There's more details in the memo here. And I also shared a species list with those details too. Allison's going to be ordering the plants next week, final orders. So we are happy with this list. If there's any emergency comments, basically now or by the end of the week is your last say. Questions, thoughts, comments?
I have a few. Jump in. I think all the species look exciting without getting into it too deeply. My question was more on, it mentions that obviously the high school's they've been in contact with the high school. I'm curious how much they've been in contact with students. And this might be a question that Calla can answer as well. But I'm curious if, there's a group of students who are sort of advising or are going to be there on the volunteer day, because I think it'd be really great if there was sort of a sense of student ownership over the project and sort of stewardship. Just thinking that a super fun place if I were a possibly high school student to like hang out, and it mentions a fence that'll be taken down after 2 years. But yeah, so I'm just curious about, what's the perception of high school students of this project, and how do we get, the broader group excited about it and excited about fostering this new space, which might be a two-part question to multiple people.
Yeah, on my end, I haven't really heard much about it at school. This is actually like the first I've heard about it actually. So I don't think it's very I mean, it is summer right now, so if things are amping up with it right now, people just might not be around to know that it's happening. But I'd totally be into talking to some teachers. I know teachers who would totally be super interested and trying to get more students involved if that's something that people are interested in.
I think that'd be
Yeah.
awesome. And I think also like science classes, going out there to study it and looking at insects and studying birds and sort of analyzing like what species do well and which ones grow faster. Yeah, it seems like a ton of potential. So that's awesome.
Agree. I was gonna guess that probably you hadn't heard about it very much. Allison's been reaching out to the high school a lot, but just sort of starting to get the inroads there. And as it is summer, hopefully there'll be more mention of it as the semester starts. Allison also made some signs to put out there, so she's gonna hopefully get approval to do that the end of the week, like tomorrow or early next week, so that, as students go by, they'll be like, oh, there's future site of Milwaukee Forest. So that should spur some interest that way. And yeah, a lot of the focus been on like making sure that this spot will work from every single possible angle and just figuring out what we're gonna do so we can order plants and trying to reach out to the high school. But there's been, yeah, there's more communication will be happening soon, and hopefully there will be teachers and students who want to get involved. The forest, like the plants are very small, so we the fence is up to keep people out of it, and then by the time the fence comes down, it's usually so dense that people can't actually walk through the forest. I think Amy has some experience with that. But it should be a really cool thing to watch from the edges, if nothing else, and in the first few years help with watering and possibly weeding during certain times of year could be useful, and definitely observations, and there's lots of ways it could be used for sure. So.
Just one thought that I'm having is, I don't know what extent the teachers have been reached out to, but I know that lesson planning is probably something that's happening now. And once the lesson plans are made, it can be pretty hard to squeeze in new activities. So potentially, I mean, we could even talk about developing some sort of lesson to share with classes that they could just integrate, because teachers have a lot going on already. So from the experience that I've had with school outreach programs, they love it when you prepare something and offer to do it for them. And that would probably be good for Somerville to have. And it can be scalable to different age levels and kind of like levels of experience and things like that. But that's, I mean, I would very much like to be involved with something like that, and I'd be happy to kind of spearhead that. I don't know exactly how that works. I'm still new here, but.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, that sounds like definitely something that under the outreach could be a outreach group initiative. And I know you've expressed interest in joining that group too. So that sounds perfect. Yeah, and definitely with the October sort of build day, getting to teachers now while they're doing their planning seems like a great way to get some students out on the install day.
Yeah, adding on to that, I have contact information for the AP Environmental Science teacher, as well as like all of the science teachers, but she specifically I think would be really into it. So that could be definitely a thing to do.
Yeah, I guess my thought for like plan of action would be reach out and maybe see what, like asking the science teacher specifically what would be helpful so that we can make sure anything that we're making is the most useful for them. So maybe like if you can establish that connection, I'd be happy to talk to her and kind of see what sort of thing might be interesting to her.
Yeah, sure. I can email her soon and CC you.
Okay, great.
That'd be awesome. And I think that might be who we've reached out to before. But yeah, we've reached out to other teachers, and I know Tori and I think Jennifer and maybe Amy have done outreach in the school. So hopefully they sort of know what the Urban Forestry Committee is generally, and this is the great opportunity to strengthen that.
I also put the Google form in the chat. If anyone wants to jump in there and sign up. This year, the Climate Justice Jobs kids have been doing insect surveys in that area. And Ava, I'm going to put you on the spot if you're still there. If you have anything you want to comment on this, how you might help facilitate a connection if you're interested. We would love to have your continued engagement, of course. Just throw up that hand. And one question I have is, are we going to add some sort of like stepping stones for when we're trying to maintain it? How do we get in there?
Great question. I don't know.
And the other one is, I see that. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'll wait.
Oh, okay. The other question is, I see that I don't see any herbaceous plants in here, and I think that was a deliberate choice.
It was. Yeah. It was because they're more likely to get trampled when we have to do weeding and or pulled out, not knowing which ones are supposed to be there versus weeds. So it was a deliberate choice not to have that bottom understory layer. Depending how it goes, we're planning to put it in an understory layer later after these plants get established. We're now wondering if that will even work based on how dense it gets and shaded out, but that's one thought, that we do it later. I guess we have to see how in a couple of years when we don't need to weed anymore, if we can actually get any herbaceous layer plants to live there.
Okay. Well, you see mostly Penn sedge, right? Pennsylvania sedge and a lot of pathrush in sort of the understory. Well, no, you see asters and goldenrod. Well, okay. All right. I can see that being a deliberate choice and look forward to having further conversations on that, just to really maximize biodiversity.
Yeah, I would say from the Cambridge forest, like the state is at right now, it is so dense. Nothing. If you planted anything under those trees, they would get absolutely no sunlight. But once they get taller and thin out, then maybe you could, and maybe around the edges you could. But yeah, I think it's probably better to wait till it gets a little mature, based on the experience there and just how dense it is at this point.
And I heard Ava's voice.
Yes, I was gonna, you asked me to comment on like how we could get more student interest on the Milwaukee forest. I know, with Tori, we were talking about the pollinator gardens and like trying to get interest from the teachers and also from like clubs and the art department. I think those same people would be interested in the forest as well. So for like the art club or whatever, or art teachers trying to like do forest paintings, I think there's an eco club at the high school. I don't know if it's going to be continued this year, but I think they would also be interested in that, and as well as the community service club would be interested in that because the teacher who runs it just is very interested in posting volunteer opportunities from locally. So I think if you just email it to her, she will put it up on a Google Doc that she shares with the people who are involved in the club.
And is that Kara Carpenter?
Yeah, that's her.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. Any other questions, comments about Milwaukee Forest?
If I could, I've totally come around on this. As people have asked me to explain what this is, like initially I didn't understand how cool these were. And as people have asked me what it is and why we're doing it and stuff, I have found total enthusiasm for it. This is the Somerville style forest. We are the densest city in New England. This is the densest possible forest. Like most of the time we put trees in as like these pillars holding up the green roof of our parks, you know? And instead of that, like we don't have space for another multi-acre park in the city. We do have these like 1,000 or 1,500 square foot spaces where we could make refuges for pollinators and dense bits of biomass and little bits of the wild that actually fit in the city, like a triple decker, you know? And I think this is just amazingly awesome, and I am thrilled that we are doing it.
That's an
That's a
awesome
great,
analogy.
perfect.
It's like the
Perfect.
triple decker of forests.
I do. Who are we sourcing? Who are we sourcing the plants from?
All over the place. A lot of these aren't like commonly found in big nursery production. So I know Allison found like some cool localish place that just started a year ago and is someone, I forget, but like very natural stuff. That's the only one she's mentioned specifically. So I don't know what the other ones are, but she's calling around trying to find these where they are available. They're also very small to start with. So, so there's that.
Okay, so if I give her a poke, she might have some specific. She would know. She would be the person to. Okay.
She would be,
perfect.
yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
All right, so now we're up to urban forestry related job postings and RFP. Oh, I get to point to you, Tori. Did you have a chance to scan the list?
So what I saw,
I can pull it up.
yeah, I didn't see anything in the RFPs. I only saw 4 different RFPs. Sewer pump station, public electrical vehicles, supply equipment, sprinkler system, fire alarm system. So that was like 5. So I didn't see anything in there. And in the city of Somerville, again, the DPW is, you know, they have a laborer in there, and that laborer does do some landscaping to an extent. Let's see, tree surgeon. There we are. Do you see it? Or I'm not sharing my screen, but
I think you can see, yeah, we got 2
there we
openings for
are.
tree surgeon and working foreman tree surgeon.
Okay.
Breck,
And
do you
it,
have any updates on
yeah.
Yeah,
those?
sadly, not much to report there. Those have been posted for a while now, maybe 2 months almost. The sticking point so far has been the CDL. All 3 of those positions require a commercial driver's license, which, to be honest, for the salary that's being offered, I think the CDL is a tough sell, but it to forgo that requirement would require like a whole new union negotiation. So at this point, it's not really feasible. So, we're hoping for the best. We've had a few applications, but so far nobody who fully meets the criteria.
Can we train them?
That was going to be
I
my
mean,
question.
that's what we would all love to do, but like I said, to hire somebody who doesn't already have the CDL would be in violation of the union contract or whatever. I don't know exactly what the situation is, but it would require negotiation with the union, and I think that's a big conversation.
Mhm.
But we have had applicants, so there is some interest out there. It's just it's
Does this,
how long it's going to take to fill them.
okay, does this job require to have an arborist? Do you have to be an arborist?
You have to be I forget what the ISA certification is, but it's like you have to be bucket truck certified basically. I pushed to get ISA certification in there as well, and that's another thing that was a sticking point with the union and we didn't get, but it does have a decent requirement for qualifications in terms of having the associate's degree or X years of experience. So it's not everything I wanted it to be, but it's not bad either.
Has anyone in the DPW applied?
No, after all those years of
I know.
fighting and negotiation, nobody even wanted it. So
Oh.
it's out with the public. I think it's possible that some of the guys in the grounds department may get interested at some point, but yeah, at this point we haven't had any internal applicants.
Okay, and what's I see the salary weekly, but what's the yearly salary? What is that?
Got to do the math. I don't know what's 1250 times
1248.
52.
Like, are we paying? Is this
1248 times 52 is 64.
About 65.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is that the tree surgeon or is that the foreman?
This is the tree surgeon.
Yeah. So
And
I mean,
then
it's more than
vacation.
It's more than the general laborers are making, but I mean, it's not actually. I don't really know how much the guys who are working in the private sector make. I know, like, compared to prevailing wage, it's not very much, but I think most private sector guys are not getting prevailing wage every day either. So, if I think the labor boom is slowing down, and it may be that, in a few months we start to see more interest in municipal jobs, but we'll see.
I mean, can we offer more money? I mean, I think that would be a city.
Yeah,
Well, that
I
would
mean,
be
again, it's all union.
The labor.
this,
I feel like our power,
yeah,
sorry, Tori. I feel like our ability to support at this moment might be in outreach, like knowing, Murphy's in an arborist school, making sure that Murphy knows about these and can share it with their networks. Just doing a little bit of Googling. If anyone's lives in Worcester and is looking to move, you can get free CDL training if you're a Worcester resident. I'm not sure if there are other, I just Googled if there's similar things in Boston. It looks like City Academy in Boston has 2 free training tracks, including CDL license. So it seems like there are, there's ways if the current applicants didn't have these things that they could get them. But yeah, I feel like, we probably can't change these postings at this current time, but we can spread it around to our networks and make sure that anyone who would be interested in this job knows about it.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody knows anybody, please do spread the word. it's, the other situation is that Cambridge has 2 very similar jobs posted. Reading has 2 very similar jobs posted. It's unfortunately our situation is not unique, and we're competing with all of the municipalities in the area for sort of the same jobs. So it's tricky, but at least it's posted. That in and of itself is progress.
Definitely. Any other comments, notes? My only other follow-up comment on this topic is when are we able to post our open committee position spots? Because I know we'll have one for Jennifer and then one for Amy and Murphy coming later in the fall.
Yeah, Murphy actually has resigned already. I forgot, I checked with her after our last meeting and I think she was done in June maybe. I just hadn't given me a firm date. So we have 2 open now and Amy coming up. I need to reach out and remember what the process is. Just get started here, but I'll do that within the next week or so. So at least I'll send out the posting when it's done. It needs to be posted, if I remember correctly, for 4 weeks. So we're still a number of months. I'm not sure I can post Amy's position till it's vacant. So it might be a two-pronged approach.
Okay. Thanks for doing that.
So just to clarify, that's 1 youth member and 1 general member?
Yes.
And is Amy, is that a special member?
She's a general member as well.
Okay.
All right. Should we move on to item number 5, Somerville Avenue bioswales?
I think I put this on the agenda. Okay, where to begin? Well, the bioswales are growing very well, not necessarily with the plants that we want the intended plants. And so I reached out to Brian Postlethwaite and asked, well, first of all, if some of the mayor's jobs workers if I could lead them in doing the bioswales, and I was going to include my kids and the DPW on that sort of mission. And because we have knowledge of what plants we want and what plants we don't. And I reached out to Brian to ask who I should reach out to, Ben or Ben Waldrop from Buildings and Grounds. So from Brian, the answer was that this is a point of negotiation by the DPW, that I guess the contract with our first contractor ended, and now they're looking to get a new contractor, but I don't know if there's a grievance been filed, but this is I guess another point of leverage DPW is using to negotiate in their contract. Like I don't. So the answer was no, that we couldn't do this, and we had like all the kids, like between my kids and the DPW kids, we would have had 16 like young people there to like in a guided operation to get rid of all that wormwood and mostly just, well, not mostly, well, anyway, to get them to a state that people will be like, oh, nice, bioswales, rather than like, oh, bioswales, like gross, so that's
Right.
what I found out. And
I have an update.
You have an update? Okay.
Yeah.
Vanessa has good news.
Yes, I do.
Yay.
So I think maybe some of the information might have been mistaken with another project or something, but I reached out to the project manager of the Somerville Ave project. So
Okay.
he reported that the warranty of the bioswales expired on August 12th, so just recently. So it wasn't turned over, I don't think, when you'd asked yet to DPW. But the contractor had a year ago long punch list of us reporting plants that were no longer there that were under warranty, and they had been swallowed up by weeds. So we had given them information about what needed to happen to get those plants in. You can't put plants in when there's no place to put them because it's covered with weeds. So anyways, they had to weed the areas in order to replace the plants. They owed about 1,100 plants across Somerville Ave. So that, even though the warranty expired, that request predated the warranty expiration, so they're still on the hook for that. This week, the landscape company was out weeding all the planters and biobasins, etc. So if you walk down the street now, it should look very different from when you were making a plan. The replacement plants still need to come in quickly, or else those weeds are just going to grow back. So that is still pending. It's unclear right now if the company is going to go install the new plants or just pay for it and then have DPW do it. So that's the next step. So step 1 is complete. Step 2 still in process. And then the longer term maintenance plan for these planters is to put them on a maintenance contract for our green stormwater infrastructure. That contract hasn't been out yet, but it's being, the scope is being worked on in the engineering department. So hopefully that'll go out soon. So that's the long-term plan.
Did I hear you correctly that we're working on a contract for green infrastructure maintenance?
Yes.
That is so good. Thank you.
Thank engineering. Got the big bucks. See, all good news.
Yes. Gosh,
Oh.
and now I need to backtrack and find out what, now I'm still going to talk to Ed Halloran to get some clarity, or okay, or maybe everything's fine. But this is great news. So you're not getting pushback that you know of from DPW to having this go out to contract versus having it done in-house?
Well, that I don't know. I expressed all the information that was given to me. This isn't my project. I just got information to share with you all.
Okay.
So maybe that's what Ed was talking about. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for this great news.
You're very welcome.
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And
I
that seems
personally
like
hope to, oh, I was just going to say, I helped to install those planters. I oversaw the plantings of most of those and have saw them become quite overgrown. So I think hearing that Somerville's putting together a green infrastructure maintenance plan is pretty revolutionary for a lot of the communities around here. So I'm very excited to see where that goes. I think that's awesome.
Thank you, Doris, for being part of that thing. I mean, the original plantings. Was that your design?
I started working at that company after the design had been completed for that section of Somerville Ave, but I helped with the other Spring Hill designs as well, but not the planting part, mostly just the design of the bioretention basins, grading, the less exciting stuff, I would say.
depends on how you look at it. Well, that seems like a great segue into species and city-owned bump outs, and a question of, are bump outs green infrastructure, and do they also deserve an ongoing management plan?
Yeah, this one was mine, and it's related to my favorite street, Beacon Street, where we have some bump out plantings that it seems like they weren't under warranty, or if they were, we just wanted the contractor to go away, and they did, as mentioned earlier. So my question is twofold. One slice is do we have, and I got the email about the most wanted weeds flyer, and maybe the answer is there. Like, do we have resources where at a glance, a resident could determine whether one of these bump outs is just lush and awesome with natives or overgrown with weeds? Because like, I can't tell. And the other is, what is the plan for transitioning from the latter to the former? And I guess a third bit is there are not less than 3 bump outs that have been informally adopted by residents, and they just have wildly different stuff in them. They all look awesome, and the rest are not. And what can we do to guide that kind of energy and enthusiasm, including the idea of like distributing either native plugs or seeds or something, and telling people either it's okay to plant in those spaces if you do it and maintain it, or don't bother, the city's going to come through. I would just love to be able to tell my neighbors honestly, like, what's the guidance on these spaces?
I guess I should answer first, but I don't really have any answers. As a city property, I'd say obviously we're not doing a great job maintaining them, so I don't see why residents shouldn't, but there is the formal like adopting a space, or making sure that those plants don't get randomly cut down. They might want to actually apply for approval to utilize those spaces. And in terms of long-term maintenance, I'm pretty sure I did mention those to the engineering department as part of the green infrastructure maintenance contract. I don't actually know what's in there, or it's not even finalized yet, so I'm not sure if they made the cut or not. So I don't know what the long-term plan is. I know nothing, but interested in suggestions of species and all that sort of stuff. Or that I can't answer either. I got nothing.
Yeah. One thought that I had, which, and it is just a thought, it is not a request necessarily, was we are having this conversation in the community garden organizers around having more space for residents to get their hands in the dirt. And it struck me that these could be non-food gardens that people could be responsible for. And that would be a structure maybe that we already have. And it also struck me that I don't particularly enjoy bringing out my kneeling mat right next to Beacon Street when there are cars going down it. And it's not a very fun community garden to maintain. But it's the kind of thing where we've already got an organization that is letting people do work on city property with gardens. And so maybe bringing those together might be either a good idea or a bad idea. I honestly don't know.
Just a quick thought from looking at street view at these bump outs, they don't appear to have any sort of curb cut. So I would not personally consider them to be green infrastructure. That doesn't mean that they aren't necessarily going to be included. But from the looks of it, they are just planter bump outs. So I wouldn't be surprised if the city was not going to pay for them to be maintained the same way that green infrastructure has to be maintained, with certain grading and riprap around beehive basin grates and things like that. So that could potentially segue into the opportunities that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it seems like a great idea. Challenging for sure. I think it would need a logistical champion. And I think the stakes from a safety perspective are higher. But I think anything we can do to continue to encourage guerrilla gardening, it's great. And I think, using our events as times to give plants away and say, if you don't have a place to plant these, there's a lot of places in the city that can use plants. So not permitting nor not permitting, but enabling in a safe way.
One thing of note is that some of my neighbors saw a person who may or may not have been me out there maintaining one of these bump outs, and asked if I was going to do the other because the weeds were tall enough that they were actually blocking sight lines. So turning out onto Beacon was becoming risky. So eventually, if we don't do something there, I think that we'll have a safety issue. It's and an active person with a pair of shears might be stalling that off on particular streets.
That may or may not be you.
May or may not be me. Wouldn't want
Is
to.
there, I know there's a tree well maintenance 311 category now that we are suggesting people put in unruly, weedy tree well requests in there that are blocking pedestrian paths, etc. I don't know if there's a similar but not tree related 311 category. I can look, but perhaps for these ones that are dangerous.
I don't think that there is, but I frequently get service requests that people put in as tree pruning requests that are actually weeding requests, and I have just been routing them to the highway department as tree well maintenance. And I think, they are doing them. I think, they have dozens and dozens of these complaints because it's a newly created 311 category. So all of a sudden there's just tons of them coming in. But I guess I would second what Vanessa said about like formally signing up to maintain these things if people are going to put a lot of energy into the maintenance, because with what I just said being said, there is a decent possibility of the highway department coming through with a weed whacker and undoing all that hard work. So just putting that out there.
Okay, so real specifically, is that still like an email to Louisa?
Yeah, so email Lisa picture, like I think this should be an easy okay, I would think, unless there's something I'm not thinking of, which is always possible.
Because the last time that I did that, she said, it sounds like you want to start a community organization, and I didn't. I just wanted to take care of one bump out. So I will try again and I will report back. It's something that if we want neighbors to volunteer to do stuff, we need to make it easy to do the right thing and hard to do the wrong thing.
Yeah. I semi remember that email, and I think it wasn't clear what was being asked. So maybe like, we'd like to take this space and put these species in it. Is that okay? Make it real simple so that it's clear that we don't have to do a whole lot of work.
Cool. I will refresh that email and be the test pigeon for getting approval to do one of these bump outs. And if I succeed, I will let folks know how I did it.
Sounds good.
And can I jump ahead on a future item, but I'll do part A. I went out and weeded our test tree pits because this was the before picture where there's a tree in here. There's the tree, and the weeds are up feet taller than the tree. So you couldn't even tell that there was a tree in this tree pit. And I produced 3 full yard waste bags that I went out and bought and then put in my car, drove home, sheltered under an awning until it was yard waste day, and was like, yeah, this is a lot. I wouldn't ask other people to do this. And debated if we could have, designated days that the city would pick up. If we asked people to weed, could the city pick up the debris? I ended up weeding impromptu, so I sort of left piles of weeds on the curb until I went home and bought yard bags and came back with a car and not a bike. And it probably gave some people a fun sight for the day. But yeah, what do we do with all of these beautiful weeds that get removed? Or is there a way we could have a public drop off at DPW? So many questions. probably not a lot of answers at the moment, but things to stew on as we continue to encourage more public gardening.
I think that there is a public drop off at DPW. I don't know like what the specific rules are, but there's a big dumpster that's just, you know, yard waste.
Yard waste?
So
Okay.
I think that people can just come and drop that if they're residents, but we could certainly find out.
Yeah, that would be, I knew I should Google something like that, but I was in action mode, not Googling mode. And I'll show the happy pictures later when we get there, which means we should save enough time to get there, which makes me look at our time and our agenda and wonders if we have final wrap-up items for this or we want to continue sort of noodling on what our next steps are.
Since I'm the one who put it in there, I'm good with declaring it complete. And I'll just provide updates kind of ad hoc. I don't expect there's going to be a need for a huge amount of discussion.
And I think this is something that SAP or species selection committee could keep thinking about, especially because it's a consideration for our trial tree pits. And if we want to expand that program, it's something we definitely need to have a better resolution for. All right. Should we move on to UFC structure, co-chair, and bylaws? I think this, Chris, was also an item that had your name next to it.
It does. I don't have anything new to report. I know that Jennifer Clifford had some notes from the bylaw working group, and I don't see her here today. She was going to bring a draft in. I don't know if anybody else who was on that working group has brought it.
I probably have the draft somewhere. I don't know if you saw, but Jennifer has resigned from the committee. I know she's going to try and meet with me and some other folks to hand off a lot of the things that she's initiated. So we can be sure to capture that document as well.
Cool.
But I think I had access to some of it, but yeah, didn't check on that item.
We can just push it to next month. That's fine.
Okay, sweet. All right, so let's jump into ongoing work updates. First is adopt a tree, which I have some updates for. And as both Jennifer and Amy are moving on to other things, I would also love new people who want to join Adopt a Tree because it's quite a bit of work. But while you think about that, I looked into our MailChimp and I checked a few weeks ago and we had 40 new contacts between just in the month of July 10th to August 9th. So that was really exciting. Seems like a lot of people are signing up. Amy updated the Adopt a Tree map, which shows all the trees that have been adopted, and it's looking really good. And then I took over sort of the primary oversight of the UFC Gmail and MailChimp account. But whoever wants to join this committee, you can have access to both of those things. And Jennifer, I know, did a lot of work monitoring the Gmail, and people email with assorted questions that don't get sent to the city. But just having some more brains on that would be great. And then Amy initiated, oh God, been sitting in the dark too long. Amy also initiated a WhatsApp reminder for hot weather, reminding people to water their trees. So if someone is interested and has capacity to help work on that, that would be great. And then yeah, I have to learn from Amy on how to update the Google map, which is something I think I can help take on. But yeah, generally those are the Adopt a Tree updates and soliciting support. If we have any
the map has 117 different trees adopted this year out of 500 plus that were planted. So, you know, decent percentage have been adopted.
Mm-hmm.
I finally got the advertisements out, so maybe the
July bump was because people realized it was a program.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I saw those go through the city emails too. All right. Well, if anyone does feel excited to join Adopt a Tree, it is definitely more than a one person role. So we'll need more support, especially during the prime time.
Just a reminder, Leah, I have been putting tags on as I
Oh,
go, so at least like definitely field work could be a big component, but if it's not many people on the committee going forward, that should at least take some of that burden off.
Yeah, that seems like a good solution as well. So yeah, we should think about what that sort of looks like into the future. Yeah, that's great.
I still need like warranty checks. They're always helpful. So more eyes on the trees, the better. But
Yeah,
Yeah, so
just having the list.
I was just saying, even though I'm not on the committee, I would like to stay on the Adopt a Tree subcommittee as a citizen member, just because I really like that
Yeah.
program. So I hope, I intentionally, unless something goes crazy, I'm planning to help next year with that too.
That sounds great. And I saw Cal has chatted too.
I was just going to say too, I think I will probably have capacity to help with that in the spring. I am flat out with other commitments right now, but I think by like the new year, that's something that I would be interested in helping out with.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And that's when we'll need, more people to sort of mobilize and go out. And I think this is also a chance to leverage our broader urban forest enthusiast network to see if we have these sort of second circle people who would be willing to go out and check on, a dozen trees or half a dozen trees, especially if we could figure out where everyone, triangulate who lives where, and could probably make it pretty easy. And I saw Cal is also interested in helping out with Adopt a Tree, which is awesome. So I'm adding you to my list as well. All right. And similar related, we can move on to outreach, which is also going to be me asking for people to help out with things coming up. Because Jennifer led a lot of the outreach activities, but I know we have a tabling event coming up in September, which is the Strike Up the Bands that we have on Sunday, September 17th, I believe. So that'll be, I think, the week before. Yeah, so this is our last meeting until that one. So if there's folks who are available on that day, I can take our names down and then we can start a chat to sign up for shifts. And if I think Dorothy mentioned she's not at this meeting, but I think she mentioned she was interested and available that day. So I will include her. And then,
I also have
anyone
that marked
else?
on my calendar.
Awesome.
So I'm up for that.
Yeah, and in the past we've had like 2 people for each 2-hour shift. So if we have 4 total, we should be in pretty good shape.
Would we be able to get some plants to give away? We get a few flats of anything, asters, or because we're entering into our second growing season, so this is in my mind the best time to plant.
I could probably order some. We do have a small allotment of funds for the UFC, so that would, this is the new fiscal year, so we're replenished. I think it's 1,000 or maybe $1,500. I forget exactly. So I can keep track of it for sure, and we can spend
That'd
it
be
on
awesome.
plants if that's how we all would like to spend our funding.
I think so. Do
Asters
we
and
know if we spent
goldenrods.
all our?
What?
Go ahead, Tori.
Oh, I was just thinking asters and goldenrods are fun for this time of year to plant. And then Leah had something salient to say, I'm sure.
I was just going to ask if you know if we used all of our budget last year.
I don't know. The plants were a bit for Arbor Day, but I forget what the total was. And then the printing for the adopted tree things and a few little supplies, but that's not very expensive. And then the pilot program we
Was
got money for actually from something else mostly.
yeah, we got that from city
probably,
council, I think.
I don't think we spent all our money. I think so.
So
It
yeah, then
was
we should
maybe close, but yeah.
show that we want to use it.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere, don't worry.
Mhm.
Okay, asters and goldenrods, I'll look into that. Similar to the adopted tree size, like the little, whatever I got.
Yeah.
Not adopted, sorry, Arbor Day, Arbor Day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, just the flats and.
Okay. And then when it comes to it, I have boxes of supplies and stuff that Jennifer gave back. So whoever wants to pick those up, I can make sure there's nothing missing and all that stuff. So
great. Yeah, I can probably do that. And then we'll also have tabling end of October for the Monster Mash, which is really fun because it's just like kids trick-or-treating. And they're all wearing costumes and it's a blast. So we can get volunteers to sign up for that one at our next meeting, but just know that it's coming. So I think that's all the big outreach events, unless anyone has anything else. All right, species selection and planting protocol. This is where I'm just going to show us some really nice photos. So these are the tree pits after I weeded them. And you can see I might have disturbed this guy, but caught him mid-flight. There's a little bee there flying away. I saw different bee species at every tree pit, which was very affirming. Liatris was doing really well. And this was, all the trees were still alive. The tilia was a little tilted. So it might be, they might be growing up and ready for bigger stakes. So maybe that's something we do before the winter. Also to give them more visibility from plows and stuff like that. And then this was also after the weeding. It was still, this one I was like, I can't tell if this is a weed or not, but it's staying for now. But yeah, this guy looked pretty good. And then there's some flowers happening in there, but generally pretty lush. And then some clover snuck in that I let stay for now. But yeah, mostly Elytra, some Rudbeckia, not as much as last year. And then going to be blanking on the name.
Yep,
but
that's the penstemon. Oh, lobelia.
Yeah.
Lobelia, and then the penstemon seeds there.
So those were doing good. Yeah, this guy was a little, one of the oaks was doing pretty well. This is one of the red oaks. It's still there, strong, holding on. And then the Australia has been the struggling more, but still green leaves, and hopefully with a little more sunlight, they'll stay strong. But yeah, I might see if we can get a couple more stakes. Our midway bamboo stakes are getting a little floppy. So I think if we can use some more of these corner stakes and hammer those in, the fencing was still looking pretty good. And the grasses were pretty good. And hopefully now that there's less weeds. Forget if I got some, just more plants. So yeah, they're wild. They're wild and fun. You can see some of the Coreopsis down here. And that's it. All right. That was our plant moment.
Thanks for weeding them.
It was fun. It was very empowering. But it was, yeah, I was on a bike ride, and so I was just in my bike riding gear on the side of the road. Should have worn long sleeves.
They look
Um,
wonderful, wonderful. Just job well done, Leah.
yeah, they're coming along. So I think lessons learned, we should do some more stakes and then just put a reminder on our calendars to go out earlier in the summer before things get totally out of control and before things go to seed. And then doing so yeah, I think early summer and then, maybe a late spring. But really, I haven't gone out there in months. And so I don't think anyone else has, from the public. I also looked on the Adopt a Tree MailChimp and I looked at the addresses and it doesn't look like anyone has adopted those tree pits. So we might put out some people might have informally adopted them, but I didn't get any address matches in the MailChimp. So that was interesting. But I know I talked to neighbors when we were installing them and we had people who were gonna keep an eye out. All right. Any other things? I know, Tori, we haven't met. We should probably meet soon. Talk about
Yeah,
more.
yeah, we haven't. Yes, exactly. Um, and will we have our recommended planting? We have handouts,
Oops.
right?
Yeah, we can have,
For that.
yeah, Venice, if you can print more of those for our outreach day. And then, yeah, also extend the invite if anyone wants to join I think we had a list of folks who want to join SAP.
Yep.
I just don't know if I have that in front of me. So yeah, just holler if you want to join the party and talk about species. With that, we'll move to tree preservation ordinance.
Yeah, so similar report here. We're in the middle of a handoff from Jennifer, and we will come back in the fall with more. We actually had just to tease a little bit, we had some fantastic conversation around how to better align the youth member requirements and appointment with the school year, because that seems to be the point when youth members will join in and then potentially drop off. And that's like the biggie, is to say the expectation is that youth members join in the fall at the beginning of the school year and serve out a year, potentially with reappointment. But it's not like we have realized that trying to have youth members join on the same 3-year schedule as non-youth members is just not a great fit for the academic calendar. So more on that in September.
All right. So next up, the most wanted weeds, which I just started downloading the poster and it has frozen my screen. So I can't share at the moment, but I know.
Yes, we got the poster translated by the city translators. Thanks, Vanessa. And I just put the link for actually submitting photos in the chat. That's also translated now. So mainly we just need help getting that information out there to anyone who might be interested. I did have one question for you, Vanessa. I know you have you said you would send it out to the your forest friends list, but I don't know if the people who sign up for Adopt a Tree, are they automatically added to that list, or would it make sense to also send it out to that group?
Yeah, they're totally separate. So
Okay.
yeah, I should do it.
Okay, so if everyone's okay with that, I'll make a little MailChimp email for that group specifically, just to let them know about it, because those also might be people who'd be interested. Yeah, and if anyone knows any other spaces to share these in, please do. Basically, just see how many photos we can get, and try to put together a draft in the fall. I think is the next goal.
Great. And I'll just flash up. This is the flyer. asking for photos. Great.
I was super impressed that the interpreters were able to translate the common names of these weeds. I was like, whoa, crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
won't
was
open all the languages, but it's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. They did a lot of work. Really appreciate all the work they did on that.
All right, and we'll get back to our GLX corridor greening. I don't know who wants to initiate, but it feels like an ongoing challenge that we might not solve in 15 minutes.
So
But
Vanessa,
let's
do you
think
have
about what
any,
would be.
yeah, Vanessa, do you have any updates? Any
No,
from
last I heard,
Neola?
the properties are still under MBTA control. I don't know how long that will be the case, but until properties are turned over officially to city for maintenance, we can't put in plants ourselves. So I don't know anything more like dates, or I have no idea. So we're in a holding pattern for now.
Okay. So for example, do you have any idea of how we figure out what, sorry for goodness, well, I live in the city, so we live in the city. How do you figure out what their pesticide or herbicide spraying is like? Because there's some, I mean, there's some knotweed that's dead, yay, thumbs up, and then I'm like, oh, those are a bunch of violets, not knotweed. And I know there is they are required to do a yearly plan, I think it's called YEET, Y-E-E-T. But I thought that was for the tracks. I didn't realize it was for the bike paths. So who would we reach out to? Who would have that knowledge?
I'm not aware of any bike path yearly operation plan either, or whatever it's called. I know that like Keolis usually submits a plan to the Conservation Commission. And I think that is just for the tracks. I'm not sure. Maybe Viola would have some more information, but I don't know who else to reach out to either.
I can reach out to Viola. So the other update on this is that there is a greening of the Green Line committee that's starting to form, it came out of a process that was a climate and arts sort of charrette that was helmed by Lee Munier and Lisa Bucalaccio and Emily, I forget her last name, just trying to find areas that people want to work to sort of have arts collaboration and greening collaboration or climate collaboration. And so greening of the Green Line group has started. We had sort of one meeting already just to, we ask questions like, okay, what's going on? Who's in charge of what? Just didn't really have any answers. And some people were like, let's just start. And people wanted to incorporate artwork in. So I guess what we're doing right now is just trying to first find people who are interested in joining this group, and then just kind of divvying up into tasking folks with reaching out to different people and finding out what our next steps could be. So there's momentum there. And yes, if anyone would like to join this group, I imagine imagine some of you might. So yeah, so that's forming. And yeah, I would say also, how is the bike? Has anyone else witnessed the herbicides on the bike path? And did anyone see anybody spraying? Yeah, there was just a lot of concerns with like, well, when are they spraying? And like, there's not a lot of space on the bike path, and I don't
I
know.
just saw the flags after it happened. I don't think
Yeah,
they did more than one day, and it looked targeted at, anything that wasn't the grass that's growing there. But yeah, and then they put the flag saying that there was herbicide applied, but it didn't have a date labeled or anything like that. But I think I saw it the day, day or two after it happened, because go by it every day.
One of the pieces of information that I've gotten is that the warranty terms, the city is taking the warranty terms on the GLX and the CPX pretty seriously, because during the period of this 2-year handoff, the GLX constructors will fix anything that was wrong at their expense. And after we receive the handoff, the city is responsible for all the maintenance. And so while it might seem like we could get a call out on some of these process things, there's a whole bunch of big, expensive structural concrete and steel that the city is trying to make sure is in good shape before we accept full responsibility for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've actually developed a certain amount of sympathy with what feels like a slow roll, but we're taking responsibility for some pretty serious infrastructure here, and that is the source of the ongoing resistance to just go in and fix things that look like they're obviously wrong at a first glance.
Thanks for that context. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
And I assume it's similar with the lighting.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense when you think about like the builders are responsible for the fact that the lights work, the guardrails don't fall off, the thing doesn't collapse and all of that. And if we go in and just start making changes, that'll get voided and it might be our big expensive capital project to fix. It's frustrating because like I would love to like basics like shade, water, a place to sit, but I've developed sympathy for it.
yeah, I guess there's just a lot of questions to be answered. And thank you, Chris, for that perspective. Because if they're doing like broadleaf herbicide, it currently just does look like a grass mix. I don't even recognize the plants as being native. So I mean, they supposedly seeded a native plant mix. Then I'm like, wow, they did some broadleaf herbicide and killed some violets. Like, I just don't know what we're gonna get. And what if the plant mix turns out not to be a native seed mix? Like, what do we do then? And what if herbaceous plants do come up and they get killed? Like, what do we do? I don't know. But I'll check in with Viola.
I did share a few months ago from Viola the mix of seeds that were applied, or at least what was claimed. So hopefully at least some of those pop up.
Yeah, I hope they pop up and don't get herbicided.
That too.
Which is not, it's like I'll try to find out some more information for next meeting. And again, thanks, Chris, for the perspective, because people are chomping at the bit to be like, let's just do XYZ. Let's just put some art in. Let's just get things going. And just finding out when this handoff happens and being patient is probably going to be important. So
All right. If we're able to wrap that up, we can move to the approval of minutes from July 20th meeting. Unless anyone has any last comments. I also see, welcome, Rob. You didn't get a chance to say hello, but if you have anything to share, make space for that.
Hi, everybody. Not too much to share. I just figured I'd sign in and see what was going on. Sounds like some really cool things. Yeah, I have a few other thoughts and questions, but I can just email the appropriate people about that.
Great. Well, good to see you. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Did everyone get a chance to read the minutes that Vanessa sent out earlier today? Hopefully, in which case I make a motion to approve the minutes from July 20th. We have a second.
I'll second that.
Great. All right, and we'll run through a roll call unless, do I ask for opposition first? Moving forward. All right, roll call. Amy.
Approve.
Breck.
Approve.
Kala.
Approve.
Chris.
Approve.
Doris.
Approve.
Leah, myself, approves. Vanessa.
Approve.
And Tori.
Approve.
Great. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining this edition of the Urban Forestry Committee. We will see some of you at Summer Streets and the rest of you in September. So at 6:25, we end the meeting. Good to see
Thanks,
everyone.
Good to see you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Don't know how to end it as a end webinar.